So we can get started. It is Thursday, December 10th. It's 6:04 p.m. This is the Easthampton Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership. Welcome, everyone. Hi, Ken. Nice to see you.
Hey.
I haven't seen you in a couple months.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Actually, it hasn't been a couple months. It's only been
it's only been, well, I guess it just feels like a couple months. So. Nice to see you. Great. So I sent around the meeting notes from October and November. If anyone had a chance to review them, I would love to get them approved so that I can send them off to Barbara. Does anyone have any comments, questions, edits?
I motion to approve the meeting minutes.
And I second it.
All in favor?
Hi.
Yes, since you can't see me.
I think I have to do a roll call. So Kate?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm Jana, and I say yes. Okay, great. All right. What is next on our agenda? Okay, so next on our agenda is a follow up on the housing production plan, which Jamie emailed us all the final draft. Was that today? Was that yesterday?
Yes, yesterday. We received it yesterday afternoon, and we've got it's now on the city's website, and anyone who wants to download it can go to easthamptonma.gov, click on forms and documents to the planning department, and then to current projects. I'm going to share my screen right now, so everyone
Nice.
wants to can look at it. Give me a second and I will maybe make it a little bit easier to read.
I will say, Ken, because you missed our last meeting, if you do watch it on Easthampton Media, you can see Judy's presentation.
Okay.
If you don't want to read all 102 pages, but that I actually rewatched it just to do the meeting notes, so it was actually pretty helpful to revisit it just so it's there.
I'll review the meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll do that. Thank you.
So Jamie, do you want to remind us on the timeline? You want us?
Right.
You want
Sorry.
Comments?
Thank you. So it's going to City Council for next week's meeting. They're going to then just send it to subcommittee. We're not sure what subcommittee they're going to send it to yet, so we don't have, we don't know when that committee is going to meet. We're expecting them to meet in early January, and then they'll come back to the full City Council for a joint meeting with the planning board on January 20th. And so that meeting would be at 6 p.m. All that's sort of still assumption because they haven't received it. They haven't scheduled the public hearing yet and all that, but that's what we're working with. If there's anyone who has on the committee or outside of the committee who's watching this at home and wants to provide comments on the housing production plan, you can let us know. You can email me, jwebb@easthamptonma.gov. That's JWEBB. Or you can email Jeff Bagg, jbagg@easthamptonma.gov with any comments on the plan. We'd like those comments by the end of the month. So December, let's see, December 30th, December 31st, just so that gives us time to make sure that they get to the subcommittee who's going to be reviewing it in advance of City Council. So.
Jana, do you remember, I mean, again, she's not here today, but Jackie felt strongly she wanted the partnership to be present for some part of that process?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we should plan to be to attend the subcommittee meeting.
Yes.
Once they decide which subcommittee it's going to. And I don't think that Judy's going to be at the subcommittee, so it's really important that we be at the subcommittee. And then we should attend the city council planning board meeting on, if it's on January 20th. Judy is going to make a presentation. Is that true, Jamie?
Correct. So she'll be presenting the plan on the 20th. And the subcommittee is just sort of going to make a motion to approve it or not. They just need some time.
Will there be a public hearing on the 20th?
It depends how the council wants to do it, but there doesn't need to be a public hearing. It just needs to be at a public meeting, which the difference being a public meeting is anything that's on the agenda with the 48 hours notice. A public hearing usually requires legal ad and notice to, but that's sort of how the city council does business. So it's sort of irrelevant to whether or not the approval happens at the meeting or at the hearing. And as Jenna said, it would be great for people to plan to attend 2 meetings in January of the city council, the subcommittee and the full council. And I'll send out an email once we get verification as to what those dates and what committees. And then, maybe we want to talk about whether or not we also want to have a housing partnership meeting in January if we're already asking members to go twice to other meetings. So.
Yeah, we can talk about that at the end of the meeting. That's a good idea. Yeah, and I think at the subcommittee, it's just good for us to be able to answer questions, talk about why it's important, kind of be the representatives to, if any of the council members have questions, talk about the last plan, just kind of be available. So I think that would be great. Judy did add the action items that we asked her to do at the end of the plan. So I would also encourage folks, I didn't really look at them yet, but I would encourage everyone to look at those also. Just because there are some things that would fall under the purview of the housing partnership. So
yeah, and I'm gonna scroll down to that. So if it gives you a headache or something like that, just look away from the screen for a minute and we'll get there. In the meantime, I don't know if there's other comments, if people had a chance to look at it since we only sent it out yesterday.
I have not looked at any of the revisions, so I got nothing to say.
Okay.
Were there a lot of revisions, Jamie? It's hard to tell because I'd
have to compare. I mean, there were a lot of comments that she received at the meeting and from Jeff and from me. I think the biggest change was the inclusion of, I'm still trying to find it, but the inclusion of this goals and strategies.
Yeah, here it is.
Action plan. So here we go. And this is honestly the first time I'm looking at it as well since we received it. So if anything jumps out while we're looking at this.
I mean, I like how she categorizes them as zoning, not zoning, complicated, not complicated, that's sort of helpful. And, I think especially for those of you who are new, kind of the way we did this last time is after the plan has been, finalized and approved, we sort of took a look at the list of things that were under the housing partnerships list of to-dos and said, okay, let's pick a couple things to focus on and then, tried to do that. So I'm hoping that something similar to that we can do, I guess, in 2021. It still will have to go to DHCD to get approved.
Correct. These are all of the action items for the entire city to take, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for us, it would just be the A and FHP.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Could you stop right there? let's see here. There's something about the old schools, develop old schools. Consider special legislation for tax, is that us? Yeah, incentives to encourage mixed income, affordable multifamily developments. Oh no, prepare RFP to solicit develop proposals for Center, Maple, and Pepin school site when the schools are completed, the new school is completed for occupancy. Is that?
No.
No. Oh,
That's
that would have been something. Okay. That would have been neat to do.
Yes, that's and we did we just received a grant to help with that process.
Okay.
So that's gonna the downtown strategic plan project left some, you know, it had a lot of great direction, but then the actual development of the RFP and the sort of the committee that would figure out how to deal with those properties.
Yeah.
Were sort of just going to be left to do it on their own. But fortunately, we received another grant from the state to help us hire a consultant to help us with that process, which will make the disposition of the schools much more.
So we could be an advocate for
yes,
workforce housing maybe in those schools, those old schools. Yeah,
and so I mean the downtown strategic plan had a number of public meetings. So a lot of the public, sort of what the residents of the city spoke up to, or were wanting to see how those buildings be reused. A lot of that has already happened, but I do think it's going to be important that, you know, if there's a committee that's going to be making decisions, that the housing partnership advocate for members of the housing partnership to be on that committee.
Yeah, right.
You know, so you know, it's a little bit early that committee has.
Oh yeah, formed, I know it's early,
but it's still something to
think about, right?
Yeah,
and it's a good opportunity to increase the affordable housing in this, you know, in the city.
Exactly. There's so many ideas about how those buildings should be reused.
Yeah. Sure.
Ranging from we shouldn't reuse them, we should knock it down and build parking, to, you know, the city should retain them and create new public, you know, public spaces, affordable housing, artist housing, a library. You know, there's so many ideas, so many more ideas than what is their space for. So
right.
And then at the end of the day, it's going to come down to whatever group comes forward with the best proposal.
Sure.
And then that committee is going to make a recommendation and work with city council and the mayor to actually turn that over.
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
Is there anything that any pages people want me to turn to in the plan?
Is there anything, and I'm going to go through this. I went through the last one and read through the whole document. I'll go through this one, but is there any information on the age of the housing, the rental, low income rental housing stock, the age of it?
Yeah, so that's
how it compares to the other cities around us or towns around.
That should all be at the beginning, near the beginning. We have just flip to it randomly. So this shows tenure, unit size, and age of housing.
Mm.
I don't know if it compares it to
Like the other towns.
But it does talk about, you know, what percent of housing is built, you know, before 1945. And
Right.
Yeah, so here's a map showing where the housing stock is, oldest to newest.
I know there are some comparisons to other towns, but from what I remember, that was one of the metrics I don't remember seeing. But there are, at least there were originally a couple of different comparisons to other communities.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, it's exciting. So
there's a lot of really interesting data in here. It's been a while since I looked at it, so, but I remember thinking like that this plan compared to the last housing production plan, I think did a much nicer job of synthesizing the data to come up with recommendations throughout the report. And sort of just gave a nice job of explaining why this data is relevant to the city and why it's important for decision making.
Agreed. All right, well, if there isn't anything people want to specifically look at, then I think we could move on, but folks should read it. It will become an important document for us for the next 4 or 5 years.
Sure. Right.
Kind of related to this, I forwarded you all an email from CHAPA about some upcoming trainings that are happening in January that seemed like kind of timely and like fairly relevant to some of the stuff that we talked about last meeting and stuff that's in the housing production plan. So I think it was only $25 for all 3 sessions, which is pretty cheap. So, you know, I'm going to try to attend at least a couple of them. And I encourage if people have the time and, you know, are interested, I think it could be helpful as sort of a next step in some of this.
Yeah, I will just say, so I'm kind of running into a problem with this, like a time delay, but you need to be an active member of CHAPA in order to sign up for the training.
Do you?
And, there's a notification that basically says there's a backlog in getting new memberships approved. So I'm still waiting for that membership approval to go through. So if you're interested, I would say try to join sooner than later, because I just imagine, you know, the next 2 weeks are basically non-productive work days, you know, between Christmas and New Year's. So,
so how did you do that, Bradley? Did you go on a website and give some information? And
yeah, so when I went to the actual page, right, to pay for the $25 and you go to sign up for it, you need to log in to your CHAPA membership in order to complete the registration. And then when I went to apply to become a member, that's when I got the notification that there was a backlog. So
wow, okay.
Because it says if you're a non-CHAPA member, it's 25 and it's 15 for a CHAPA member, but basically they're just forcing you to become a member. As a former CHAPA employee, I think that is not okay.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just, you know, it could be like a clerical error in the way they set the registration up. I don't know, maybe tomorrow I'll try to contact someone and see. But I mean, I'm assuming they all work from home, so I don't really know who to find.
That's helpful information, because I, of course, had not at all tried to register yet, and I was waiting till the last minute.
Just in case.
Okay. Great. Why would they have a backlog in memberships? They would think that they would want your money and therefore they would want to do it faster.
The way the language sounded is it seemed like it was a backlog in processing.
No.
That people had already applied and they just hadn't finalized it. It was something like each application needs to be manually entered by an employee. So I think whoever that person is probably
right.
just, typing up a storm at home trying to get stuff processed. So
interesting. Okay. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
All right. Anything else on the housing production plan?
I think it looks fantastic. I mean, Judy did an amazing job. There's so much info in there that it's a lot to process right now, but I'm sure over the next, year or two, as we really start to dig into stuff, I think it's going to be an essential document for us. So I'm pretty excited.
Me too.
Yeah, I agree.
And hopefully that'll give us some, some concrete projects and things to work on. So
yeah,
probably the next chair will have to figure out what we're gonna do, what we're gonna work on.
Right. All right. Next on the agenda.
Is the next chair not you anymore? Is there some drama?
It can be me. I'm just saying that if someone else wants to do it, it's on the agenda to talk about.
We had that conversation last time where we were no.
I said you all could think about it and then we could talk about it tonight. So it's still on the agenda. But no, I love the housing partnership. Speaking of CHAPA, so one of the things that Judy recommended that we look into is CHAPA's municipal engagement program. And think about applying for that as a way to sort of help us with our sort of on the ground advocacy, building our base of support for, community residents that are interested in affordable housing. So I sent you all the link on their website. And of course the application is closed. So we can't apply right now. But Dana Lewinter, who's the director, I've known for a long time. And so I'm happy to reach out to her and just ask when they think the application period will be open again and, talk a little bit about what we're thinking. I feel like last time it was open, I, for some reason, felt like we weren't eligible and I don't remember why. But maybe now that we are have a housing, we have an updated housing production plan and we're a little bit farther along, we'll have a more compelling application. I can't remember. But I'm happy to email her and just kind of find out at least when they expect applications to be available again. I'm assuming it'll be sometime next year. Just so we can at least find out more about it. Does that sound? Maybe somebody actually from CHAPA would even come to one of our meetings. Since now we're via Zoom, it's a lot easier for them to do that. But does that sound like a good plan?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Looking at my agenda. Oh, so this is my discussion of the chair position. So last meeting, I brought up that I've been the chair since, 2010, I think, a long time. And we don't have the positions don't have term limits. So it's not like you can only be the chair for 2 years. We've never, we could do that, but we haven't. And so I used to every couple of years ask everyone, hey, who wants to be chair? And no one ever wanted to do it. And so I just keep doing it. But so I do, if anyone else is interested, I'm happy to continue, but I also want to give other people the opportunity. My main duties are typing up the agenda to give to Barbara, facilitating the meeting, taking notes if no one else takes notes, talking to Jamie and Jeff occasionally outside of the meeting, making sure somebody represents the housing partnership at important meetings, those kinds of things. So, you know.
I would just say maybe in like a couple of years. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I'm so new that I don't know enough yet, but, you know, if you ever wanted to kind of take me under your wing and just, I can learn more, then I'm totally cool with that. But this is obviously, I think at least for now, way out of my league, so.
Yeah, I'm happy to keep doing it. And we do have a lot of new folks on the committee, but we also, you know, I've said this last time too, but we actually have quite a few professional, we're a very professional group. We all bring a lot of experience to the table, which is really great. So yeah, I mean, you know, we can revisit this again next year. But, you know, just know that I'm fine to have a democratic process about who's the chair. But yeah.
Can I add, I think it might, if you're feeling like there's a lot to do, it might be helpful to break the role of the chair up, and that we could have, some committees have secretaries that are responsible for taking the minutes, separate from the chair who primarily runs the meeting. And there could be opportunities as well to have like a vice chair. So some committees have that. So in case the chair isn't present, there's someone else who can step up to run the meeting or take over things that need that the chair isn't able to or isn't willing to do.
If someone else, I mean, I was just thinking the other day, who used to take the notes? Because it wasn't me. And was it Fran? Because she left a long time ago.
Yeah. So once Fran left, I believe it started just back and it bounced back and forth between you and Jackie.
Okay. So
I tried to lend a hand a couple of times, and I'm just not good with, now that everything is on Zoom, or I could do a better job, but I just was not good at, you know, picking up every detailed information when the few times that I did do it.
All right. Well, I'm taking them tonight. Something we could also rotate every next meeting if someone else would like to do it. They don't have to be, you'll notice if you look at the two that I sent you, Jackie, well, I actually changed mine. Jackie's was always a little bit more formal. She'd be like, Chair Tatro. And I write like, Kate said, you know, blah, 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 blah.
No one's like Haley though. Haley was the best. Actually, and Ken, just so you know this, there's such a thing as too much detail in note taking, because she would be like, Kate said that's stupid. And you're like, oh, really? Do you really want that in the meeting minutes? So just throwing it out there.
You're right. Haley took them.
She took them perfectly.
Yeah. So there's a happy medium between like, you know, not enough and too much. And I will say that I actually went back and watched last meeting, which turned into me taking way too many notes, because then I was like, oh, and then, you know, Brad said this, and then, you know, Counselor Peak said this. And then I was like, oh, I could just go on for pages. I need to stop doing that. So, you know, we're not a very formal, particularly formal group, but, so if someone else would, I mean, we can always rotate. I'm happy to do it occasionally. It is hard to do it and talk at the same time. So, you know, tonight's not so bad because we're not really doing that much. We don't have that much to talk about, but okay. And I think also next, you know, as we get into 2021 and we're thinking about our to-do list for the housing production plan and activities, it might be helpful to think about a vice chair role, you know, as we're sort of dividing up duties. We're a small group, and so we tend to kind of informally divide up duties, but, you know, I think we can that's a good suggestion, Jamie, for us to think about next year.
I mean, I'm totally on board with whatever. I know right now I couldn't do it in a full capacity and be as effective as I think you all need someone to be, but you know, something like that, or, you know, switching off on duties, I'm totally fine with. So, you know, whatever you all think works best, I can meet that challenge at least.
Awesome. Great. Any other updates? I
had a question. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
It's not an update. I can't update you guys on this, but I guess it's kind of a question for Jamie, which is the shelter. I'm talking about information for homelessness in Easthampton is the topic. The shelter landscape for this season is different because of COVID. There's more resources. I'm not even familiar with all of them. I missed a meeting today with the Northampton City of Northampton. So I'm just wondering if it'd be helpful to, and I don't know who in Easthampton we'd want to talk about that, but I just want to make sure that whomever needs information on homelessness and shelters in Easthampton, I don't know if it's the Council on Aging or that they have that. Yeah. And again, I can't, sometimes I can tell you from the top of my head, I missed this meeting today, so I actually don't know what all the resources are this season, but I know there's more.
Yeah, I think it'd be incredibly helpful to, if you did have a list that you could send me, I can send that to the mayor. I know she has a lot of people in her contact list. I honestly don't know, you know, when it gets to individuals who are actually looking for housing, how the connections get made from people who need the housing to people who know where the resources are.
Do we know if the overflow shelter, Kate, do you know if the overflow from Northampton to Easthampton is happening in the church this year? No,
so again, I missed this meeting. Like I don't want to misspeak. What I do know is that Amherst got a lot of money. So I missed this meeting. I don't know if they're opening up. So, I mean, I guess we can also do a short-term project and a longer-term project, because I think that question is actually, could be an important one for our group, which is how does the information, you know, I don't think we're going to answer it this season, but I think that that question of who directs people in Easthampton, you know, is it, you can never think of the place on Clark Street, the food place.
The community center.
The community center. Because I think that could be, I think we have to talk about it, but perhaps that's one function of this group as well, to make sure, because I do feel like often Easthampton does get left out of these conversations in a way that's, you know, probably historical, but we do have people that need these resources. So, and I remember when Haley, for you guys don't know, Haley used to work at the senior center, and she just felt like it was a very, homelessness was a very present thing that no one really acknowledged in Easthampton. And so, so short term, I am happy to try to get you a list, Jamie, and you can disseminate it to the mayor. But I think longer term, what this very short conversation is perhaps highlighting, and we could add this to the list that on the production plan, is that maybe that's one thing that we need to figure out, which is what are the channels? Who does need this information, and maybe start building that or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned the community center, and they have a food pantry, and I do believe that a lot of people take advantage of that, and so and I do know also that the housing authority has quite a long wait list, and so I would imagine that many people looking for housing go to the housing authority first and find out that, well, there's a 5-year wait list, so, well, that doesn't really help them. I imagine that the housing authority provides them with at least some other resources, but maybe they don't, and maybe we should reach out to the housing authority as well to provide them, see what they do.
So this is Yoshi Bird, and I'm not formally part of the partnership, but I work in homelessness, and I've worked in homelessness for about 20 years. So if it would be helpful, I could put together a list of resources, access points, and sort of eligibility requirements for homelessness services in Hampshire County. Because I have, you know, it's not just sort of family homelessness, but there's also rental assistance, rapid rehousing, and a lot of it's come out around COVID that wasn't formerly available. So there's been an expansion of resources for the region, and I could try to get an updated list for people if that's helpful, and we could just disseminate it to anyone who might want to know, whether it's the school system, council on aging, whoever.
That would be great.
Yeah,
and the Commission on Disability put together a list a couple of years ago of area resources, which I can forward to everyone. In the past, I've given that out when people have come to me, but I'm not exactly, people don't often come to the planning department. So I don't know how helpful it's been, but at least maybe people can take a look at that and it'll help generate some ideas. And if we have contact information that needs to be updated, we can, or if there's things that want to be added to it, we can go from there. So I'll forward that to
Yoshi. That would be fabulous.
Yeah.
Yoshi, you were on the email that I sent out yesterday?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
I was.
And Yoshi, actually, I think you know Jana. I mean, and Jana is really, I feel like maybe do you want to just send it out to us to see if we can add anything to it before Jamie disseminates it?
Definitely, yes. And I can sort of designate which things are COVID specific, because there's a lot of COVID specific money that's tied to like certain timelines and certain types of evictions and things like that. So yes.
That would also just be helpful to have. I mean, and then maybe as another project, and I don't think this is a huge project, and I mean, we could even do it now in 20 minutes, is just identify, and I don't know if that you're saying that this is what you're going to do, Yoshi, but I would imagine this is not what you're going to do. It's just identify those access points in Easthampton specifically. So, I mean, we could actually do it right now if we wanted to. Schools, council on aging, the community center, houses of, worship, faith-based.
Yeah. Yeah, these are all really good points, because we don't necessarily participate too much in coordinated entry here in Easthampton. Just sort of everybody knows who's already been in the system or is familiar with the system through their family or whatever. They sort of know. If you're in the family system, you go to DHCD at their access point, but first timers don't know how to navigate the system. They don't know where to go, and they just have to reach out to their natural supports here.
Well, and this is what we were talking about, Yoshi, a couple months ago, which is the weird thing about COVID is it does have a lot of people that are first timers, that people, so yeah, I mean, I think that's probably an easy list. Are we missing anyone, Easthampton folks? Any points of access? I mean, I would usually say Flywheel, but maybe not anyway, but. Oh, police department. That's a good point.
Oh, police department. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a huge one that we just missed.
Hospitals, always, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing about hospitals, though, is that they usually I'm not as worried. I do just think that Easthampton gets a little weirdly isolated. Yeah. Because I feel like Cooley Dickinson has more of this stuff, although maybe I'll share it with them too.
So first call for help hasn't been called that in like 15 years. It's under basic needs, and it's actually not at 56 Vernon Street. That is our Head Start office. I can give you that's a very common mistake.
This would be great to have updated. I mean, this was compiled in December, or was published in December 2017. It was compiled probably over the course of a year or something like that. It took a while for the.
Is this online, or you just have this on your?
Yeah, where is this?
It is on the city's website under the Commission on Disability. And again, these are like, does it make sense for it to be under the Commission on Disability? Probably not, but they were the organization that decided we should put together a list of services, and then we tried to make it as comprehensive as possible, but that's where it ends up living. I think we also noticed at the last meeting that there was information on the city's website related to housing and basic services and needs that we don't have as well. So there probably should be like a higher level resource on the city's website of like, where can you go to help? And it shouldn't be under the Commission on Disability or any specific office.
Well, I feel like I had a text, the mayor had texted me something. Now I can't find it. Where
Yeah,
I felt like
oh, sorry. Go.
I was just gonna say, I felt like she was saying there was a place on the website, but I can never find any place on the website that has anything. But I feel like we need a place on the website.
So yeah, I think it would be really helpful. And actually, this is not a bad, I don't think this is a bad list. I just think it needs to be a little updated.
Yeah.
Jana, do you know if in Hampshire County, oh, I'm sorry, Becca.
Oh, I was going to say that it should be a little more thorough too, because at least for the people who are going to be looking at this to access services, just simply the category and the name of the place doesn't actually tell the service user specifically what they can offer. So I wonder, is it in our scope of influence to build something like this that is like fully immersive, that has all of the different programs and the names, and you know, going like contacting each one of these places and getting an update of, you know, what are the services that you currently offer. And then, I mean, if we had a kind of essential, like I mean, we used to call them resource binders, but that was back before the internet. But, you know, is that something that we could do? Or, because at least just in my reflection for housing services in Massachusetts compared to Vermont, there's next to nothing for infrastructure in Western Mass, which is very surprising to me. So I just wonder if nobody's really doing this in a full, thorough kind of like interactive document, maybe we should make it. Or I can try to go through all of these and contact people and just see what resources there are.
Well, I'll just jump in and say that Community Action has a public resource directory called Look for Help.
Okay.
Which is not Easthampton specific. Right. And I mean, I wouldn't say it's perfect, but I think we should look at that, because we do have a staff person whose job it is to update things. And, you know, these kinds of things are really, you know, this is why public resource directories are not they're just super hard to keep updated. But yeah, this is the website. Thanks, Jamie.
Oh, okay, perfect. I use this for the students that I represent at UMass. I send them to this website pretty often.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yes, and Yoshi is saying 211 does it too. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So,
but is this linked on the city website anywhere?
I don't.
Yeah.
Know. And so that's, I mean, that's part of the sort of discussion that I think the Housing Partnership should have, is like, is it worth your time to try to redevelop something that already exists and that there's paid staff working on, or is it better for the city to just link to it and highlight it and encourage people to go to those other resources?
I mean, can it be just as simple as creating like one of those little scrolling bars on the website? You know how like most websites right now will have like, you know, this is the current updated COVID, you know, information for our organization. Maybe that could be something for the Easthampton website. You know, if you need help, please utilize this service, and then have it direct link to the Look for Help or to 211, or maybe even both.
Mm-hmm.
So I've generally found that a lot of the resources that are available online are they're provider directed. So they're usually written in a way that providers understand, and providers sort of can read and synthesize the information sort of in their own brains. But what I've tried to do a lot sort of on a volunteer basis is take that information and think from the perspective of the person who's seeking for help, where are they along sort of the continuum of homelessness, and sort of say to them, okay, have you received a 14-day notice to quit? Have you received your 48-hour eviction notice? Are you doubled up and staying with a friend? And sort of depending on the answers to those questions, then giving them just a very brief list of the resources that are available and applicable and would actually be helpful to them. So I don't know how to do this on a website because I haven't done it on a website. I've always done it just sort of in one-page handouts that I give at little like community grassroots meetings, but that can be a very helpful way to present the information to people that is different from how 2-on-1 presents it, or possibly how Community Action or DPH has presented it. Just my 2 cents.
There is also a website, I'm trying to look at it right now, that attempted to do that around legal issues, including evictions. And I think Community Legal Aid paid for it. I'm just trying to look for that. Again, I agree with you, Yoshi. I think that most of these things are, I mean, also computers are imperfect, and you're assuming everybody knows how to navigate these computers. So, I mean, I think we're in an imperfect world, and the question is, what do we want to put our resources? I guess I was talking about the homelessness because usually when you're on the brink of homelessness, or if you are homeless, that's the time that you're going to be the most vulnerable, and those access points can be really helpful. So, but again, maybe it's not the best use of Yoshi's time because, but I also find that a lot of these things, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much to say about it, but I feel like sometimes when you look up things on, I haven't used the Community Action one that much, but they often don't get you to the right place. And I think, I mean,
yeah, no, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. No.
No, and I'm not trying to fix this whole thing. I'm just being like, the list for the homelessness wouldn't be that long. It's like, call ServiceNet, call Craig's Door, call blah, blah. And there might, and we don't have to recreate the wheel. I can also look, the 3-county COC might have just come out with one of those. So, which I can share with you, Yoshi. Are there any, I mean, the best I also find is housing navigators are pretty incredible. And I know that Franklin County got a grant for that. Jana, do you know if Hampshire County got anything?
I don't know.
Okay. Got it. Because again, that question of, you know, how do you find housing is unfortunately, finding affordable housing is an onerous task, which is ridiculous. And I feel like is actually purposely confusing. And so even if you send people, this is my own personal opinion, even if you send someone to the right website, even CHAMPS, which is now the communal application, there's just, I mean, you should be able to apply to one place, but that's not how our system works. You have to apply to around 10 places and it's very confusing. So I don't think we're going to solve that problem. But I think this is a good discussion. I don't know.
I'm certainly happy though to develop like one-pagers for both the client side and sort of the provider side, and just email, if you could distribute them by email if you wanted to the various access points that are like, if you are the person at the desk when a person shows up and says, I'm homeless, here's the most helpful thing you can hand them or say to them. And like for them, here's the handout you could give them to take away with them or something like that. If that's helpful, if that's something that the partnership would want or need.
I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, me too.
Because that's different than giving the sheet. I mean, generally speaking, I know more about Northampton Council on Aging. Generally speaking, if someone comes in, they're homeless, they do give them a sheet, but that's not so helpful. It'd be much more helpful to give the provider, here's what you should give and say. So I think that'd be great.
Can you
training everyone?
Can we give the those sheets, that information to like churches and things like that? Are those access points? I mean, would people go to the church and say, hey, listen, I just got thrown out of the apartment?
That's a great idea. Yeah, the churches do get a lot of that too.
Yeah, I think what we were saying is the access points, and since Jana is taking fastidious notes, I think we were saying the access points would be, you know, houses of worship, schools. A lot of parents don't disclose to their schools and teachers, but because of concerns about removal of children, but schools, houses of worship, I think we said Council on Aging, we said the community center, We're missing some places.
You said fire.
Police.
Oh, right, the police and
police.
fire.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty important. What else are we missing? We said hospitals, but that's North End. Oh, libraries actually is not a bad one either.
I mean,
even though everything's virtual here.
I was gonna say, there's, you know, outside of COVID, all these places make sense. I just don't know what people are doing if you're homeless and you don't have access to internet and you can't go into places. I don't know. Yeah. Sort of depressing.
Well, I think this is a good place to start. Oh, go ahead, Yoshi.
I was just wondering if there are areas that have, I know the school system at one point was talking about having sort of Wi-Fi access available near their location for kids who needed to get on and use it. Are there other locations with public Wi-Fi accessibles that low-income households that have a phone but don't have internet or Wi-Fi or data plans could access it to be able to access those services around Easthampton? I actually have no idea.
Technically, you can access free public Wi-Fi from the boardwalk. We have an access point that broadcasts, but I don't know how well advertised it is, and I'm not sure if it's like, I think you have to know that it's there, and you may have to even know what the
password?
The password is, but like it's free public, and but I've never tried to get on that network, so I'm not actually sure how well known it is. We definitely don't have signs saying free public Wi-Fi here.
Well, I think that's a really good point, though. If I'm going to put together a one-pager, that's something that really is specifically very needed right now. How would you even access these resources if you don't necessarily have a phone and internet?
And I also don't, because we don't have, you know, members on the committee right now who are, you know, working at the Council on Aging or the community center. We don't actually even know what they currently do. They may have, I know that the senior center has a lot of resources that they're able to provide their constituents. I imagine that the community center has.
I volunteer at the community center, so I know Robin. I can ask her.
That would be great, because I think that without knowing what they're already doing.
Right. Ask Robin. I'll ask Robin.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It might be worth, this is like a weird thing. I'm almost sure they don't have it. It might be worth, if you did do a one-pager, and I don't know, I think we're talking about if it's worthwhile, it actually would probably be worth giving it to crisis services because, again, I mean, we're trying to catch Easthampton, but I feel like a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people, but people from Easthampton, either the police contact crisis services or contact them themselves, and that could be another access point. You do it on the phone.
Definitely. I think the only thing about crisis services that's different from everyone else is that they typically get a lot of people who are homeless and probably are very familiar with the system and need less support in understanding how to navigate it than, like, I don't know, some other access points. But I'm more than happy to do it, and whoever wants it can have it.
You would be surprised. There's not usually too much, you'd be surprised. You know, they assess but yeah, they probably have the access point to, you know, the Northampton resources, which is a good point.
Okay. I can just, speaking of resources, give a little update on,
Jana, if you can hear us, you're frozen.
What I know. Yeah, I know. Can you see me now?
Yeah, we can see you now. You're unfrozen.
Okay. I'm unfrozen. So just in terms of, so Raft is
Up, you're frozen again.
There's a digital saboteur afoot.
It's just someone's playing video games at that house.
Jenna, maybe try turning off your video for a minute.
Oh, and just do verbal, yeah.
I guess this shows the need for a vice chair, huh?
Well, but even if there was a vice chair, Jana's the only one that has the update on the raft.
He's gone. She probably rebooted.
All right. Well, let's just take a short break while we wait for Jana to rejoin the meeting.
So, Jamie, are you not formally a part of the housing partnership?
Correct.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I'm not on the. I'm not technically on any committees that I sent up, that I am administrative staff for. So.
Gotcha. Okay.
You're back.
back. I can hear the rest of my family yelling about internet going out. So it's.
Oh yeah, there is a problem with internet in Easthampton, actually. If you, I don't know where you live, but my sister is like really pissed off and has been on with the internet company for a long time.
Oh, ours is sometimes fine and then sometimes not. Well, all right, I'm hesitant to give you my update, but I'll try to go fast. Basically, my update is that Raft has tons of money and they do have an online application for wayfinders, which serves Hampshire County. Their completion rate, so they've gotten about, I don't know, 3,000 applications. Only 15% of them are complete. So a lot of them are incomplete, and the online application isn't necessarily hard, but it's 18 screens and requires you to upload about 10 different documents. And so I will just say that community action, you know, we can sometimes help with wrapped applications, but also, you know, it is a resource and they have a lot of money and there's a lot of work going on, but it's the application process is, you know, a little bit cumbersome, and they are working really hard to get more people to complete applications. But and I mean, Kate may have heard this also, but you know, the court filings, I think there's been like 400 or something court filings in Western Mass since the moratorium ended. And, you know, I've heard that some landlords are actually waiting until January because they want to wait till the CDC moratorium is over. So some people aren't getting notices to quit, who normally would be, because the landlords are just going to wait until they think that there won't be any other delay. We don't know. I mean, maybe the CDC moratorium will get extended eventually. We don't know, but that's what I've been hearing on the eviction front.
So, Jana, do you know, so this sounds very similar to what's been going on out in Eastern Massachusetts. So I was in a training with the Massachusetts Housing Trust, and they were kind of basically saying the same thing. They have like a 19% completion rate. Do you know what are there metrics that are being gathered on what the primary reasons are for incomplete applications? And is there anything we can do to kind of put a bridge over that gap? I don't know.
I mean, so my personal experience, so I work for Community Action, which is a community action agency. We're a federally designated agency. And so the state, DHCD, has asked CAP agencies to help raft administrators with this online application issue. So we've been going to trainings and working with our area raft providers. Community Action has had a similar experience in Amherst, where we're working on their emergency rental assistance program with an online application. I think the biggest issue is people start filling it out and then they either, they don't have the documents, or they fill it out and then life happens and they just can't complete it. I'll say, if we're, for anybody who's working with people, the raft application asks for a lot of stuff to get uploaded, and it is smartphone compatible, so you can do it on your smartphone, but it's a lot of, you have to be able to read it, which is pretty complicated. And then you have to be able to upload not only your ID and your income, your proof of housing crisis, your, everything else you can think of, sign it and submit it. And so, what Community Action is trying to do is figure out how we can help make sure the application is complete. How can we help people gather all the right stuff together and be ready to take a picture and upload, and take a picture and upload each time. In Franklin County, they Wayfinders will allow you to proceed through the application without uploading anything. Franklin County won't. So then what happens is people just keep taking a picture of a blank piece of paper and just upload that over and over and over again, because you can't proceed through the application without uploading something. So there's a lot of pressure on some of these other agencies to kind of help. And so we're trying to figure out, for example, I don't have a list of what are all the documents. So if I knew what all the documents were, then I could make sure that the people have the documents, but they haven't even given us that. So it is statewide. I mean, I heard yesterday that the South Shore Raft Agency has gotten 8,000 applications since October 1st.
Wow.
But only 15% are complete.
Yeah.
So it's
is there a sunset period on the application?
Yes, it's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so if you don't complete it and get all your stuff in 2 weeks, your application basically gets deleted.
Yep.
And you have to start all over again.
Okay. Yeah. Because what I had heard was one of the issues, and I don't know that they've found a solution to this yet, because I think it would need to be some kind of a legislative change, but the backlog in getting a Social Security card replacement is longer than the sunset period of some of these organizations. So even if someone didn't have their Social Security card, getting it from Social Security Administration takes longer than the application allows. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess, I don't know. I think that's just what we're stuck with. I don't know how to change that.
They're not requiring your Social Security card, but they are requiring proof of income. And so I think for some folks whose proof of income is Social Security, if you don't have a letter, you have to get the letter. For some people, proving COVID loss is challenging. You don't have something that says you lost your job due to COVID. Right. So I think the state is trying to relieve some of the documentation requirements, but I think it's just been really challenging. So
I mean, because I'm sure all those people are working from home as well. So
right.
It just compounds everything so much further. I don't know.
Yeah, everything takes longer during COVID for sure.
Do we have a sunset clause or do we have a 2 weeks in our, since you guys are the administrators? Was ours a 2 weeks or that's just Amherst?
It's just Raft. Amherst doesn't have a sunset either.
Okay. In our CPA money thing, it's just Raft. Okay.
No, we talked about a time period for that, to get the documentation from the landlord. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, and I have some draft guidelines to send to you, but we are not going to do that. We don't want to penalize the tenant if the landlord can't get their act together to sign something. And I will say in Amherst, we have one particular landlord that has been really awful about returning documents. And it's just so frustrating to spend 6 weeks chasing a signature because they are working, they're working remotely and they just can't get their act together. So, and it's not because they don't want the money. It's because they just are inept at their job, in my opinion. But so it's been tough.
It's not Cayman's, is it?
No, it's not Cayman's.
Okay.
We
I was
actually
gonna say they like money.
Well, I mean, for anyone who knows Amherst, Cayman's actually, I don't even think we have any tenants from Cayman's.
Because they're all college students.
Or, in my opinion, Cayman's is too cheap to take anyone to court.
Well, that's true.
I feel like they just don't do it because they don't want to spend the money. But
well, it's actually kind of a smart strategy, to be quite honest. I mean, it's usually not worth it, but
so we can keep an eye. I'll anybody who comes across you're right, data points around evictions or housing stuff in between meetings, feel free to bring it to the meeting and we can update each other on what we're hearing.
Can we just circle back though to Yoshi's thing, because I think we didn't really complete. Are you going to do that project, or did you think it was not a great use of your time? Because
I'm happy to do it. I do it all the time, I like to tell people about where to find a place to live. That's like my favorite hobby. So I'm happy to do
doing that too, man. I'm like real weird. So I'm just wondering, and not that I really want to give myself something to do, but I actually think there's probably 2 parts to this. One is, where do you live? And maybe, Yoshi, what I can do for you, if I have your email. There's another part that if we wanted to, I'm getting evicted and what should I do?
Yeah.
And we could give a couple of resources. I think I just did the Mass Legal Resource Finder kind of thing.
I think, Kate, you sent me some resources after the last meeting.
Yeah, didn't I?
I'm being
find them. I was just looking about that. I was like, what did I do with that? I think that might have been the CDC thing, though. How to fill out your CDC thing? No.
It's possible. And then now I have to find it as well. So.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I'll look at my sent mail. I was like, didn't I send some stuff on this? Jamie.
Notice. Okay.
Notice to quit information.
Yeah, it's put up by DHC.
Yeah, I think that's the CDC stuff, right?
Yeah, and that how to file for the CDC moratorium.
Yeah.
Which is going to be obsolete in a few weeks.
Yeah. Let me see, Jana, there's nothing that Community Action has? Like a flyer?
No, not really. I'm trying to think if I've seen a flyer.
I mean, this isn't terrible. I'm looking at it in the teeny. It's a little complicated. Yeah, it's a little complicated. I'm just shocked that someone hasn't put it out yet. Like, what do you do? I'm just looking online and I can't find it easily. Like, I would think someone had it.
Yeah, I think if Yoshi wants to, draw something up and we can all add to it or look at it, I think that would,
Okay. Yoshi, start. I will try to see if I can find a version of this. I just am shocked if there's nothing like this that's more legible and just about Massachusetts and not about the CDC moratorium, which I think is kind of moot. Because I do think that would, look, they list the court service centers. I would be surprised that's who was going to contact to see if the court service centers has promulgated anything. Because I'd just be really surprised if no one has a flyer. I got a notice to quit. What do I do? But let me see if I can find it, Yoshi. And so I will try to get you some information about eviction versus, unless you already have it.
Sure. Yeah, what I'd done before was like a flyer that was like, this is what, you know, it's just like, breaks it down into stages of homelessness. So it starts with, you know, I'm just living doubled up. Okay, this is where you go, and this is what you qualify for and you could get. I'm not doubled up, I'm living on the streets. This is what you could get, you know, or
Okay.
I have a 14-day notice to quit. This is who I call. I have my 48-hour eviction. One. Yeah, that's what I've done before in the past, but I've done it for Hampden County, so I just have to adapt it to Easthampton.
Perfect. Okay. So why don't you do it and then we'll see what's missing. Do you know what I mean? That
Sure.
actually makes the most sense.
Yeah,
So why recreate the wheel? Let's see what's missing and we can all add to it. So do you want to just email that around once you have it?
Yeah, no problem.
And I do just want to let you guys know, if you want to, I go to this, actually Jenna doesn't go to it, but I go to the 3-county individual. There's a family homelessness meeting that I don't go to because I don't work with families anymore, that Yoshi probably used to go to. And then you used to go to the Pamela one, right? Yoshi?
Oh, I go to the family services one. Yeah.
So you could bring it to the family services one and I could bring it to the individual services one. And I think actually someone had asked for that at the individual services one and no one had something like that. So I'm just saying, in terms of your impact for this, Easthampton could lead, you know? So it doesn't just have to stay within Easthampton. I think that it actually is needed beyond.
Great. Okay. Awesome. All right, are we ready to move on from this topic? Yeah. So just to circle back to January. So our next meeting is scheduled for January 28th. Though we will potentially have 2 other meetings to attend that month for city council. So if folks want to do that in lieu of our 28th meeting, that is totally fine with me. We could also play it by ear if in fact we think that if city council is going to get bumped to February, then we could decide to meet in January.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Okay.
It was sent to the council, so I imagine that they'll deal with it in January just because they like to move these types of things pretty quickly. And we're no longer waiting for the final draft. So
okay,
I feel pretty confident that the city council will conclude it by January 20th.
Okay, great. So then let's plan to do the subcommittee meeting and the city council planning board meeting on the 20th. And then we will meet again as a full partnership on February 25th. It's like so far away.
My God.
The 20th, what time is the 20th meeting? 6?
6. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we meet at 6, but why do we meet at 6? It's like right in the middle of dinner time.
I know. I'm always starving at this.
I feel like there was a reason, and now because of Zoom, I feel like the reason?
We were meeting at like 6:45 or something like that, and then
that's true. It was a weird time. Well, okay. On a future agenda, I will put that on as if we want to revisit our meeting time.
What is the other time that we have to? So it's the 20th at 6, and what's the other one?
We won't know yet until the council decides which subcommittee.
And so will we get that info from you, Jamie, or from?
Yes,
Jamie?
I will send it to everyone on the housing partnership list, and yeah. So as soon as I find out, which will probably be next Thursday after the meeting, we'll know where it's going.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Everybody feel good about adjourning?
Yes.
I feel like this was a really productive hour and 15 minutes. Thank you, everybody.
Great. All right, it's 7:15. All right, thanks everyone.
Have a good one.
Happy holidays.
Yeah,
thank you.
Happy New Year.
Holidays you all celebrate. I hope they're all happy.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.